The first thing the aliens learned about humanity was that humans laughed at the wrong moments. Not when they were safe, not when they were comfortable, not when victory was certain. Humans laughed when everything was falling apart. That fact alone should have warned the Galactic Union to be careful. The transmission was supposed to be historic. Across thousands of star systems, billions of intelligent beings watched as Earth officially joined the interstellar community. Ancient civilizations tuned in, powerful empires observed in silence. Trade guilds, scientific councils, military commanders, and planetary governments all watched the small blue world that had finally stepped onto the galactic stage. Earth was not impressive by most standards. Its population was relatively small compared to the great hive worlds. Its fleets were modest. Its technology lagged behind many established civilizations. On paper, humanity looked fragile. The Galactic Union had seen worlds like Earth before. Young species usually arrived nervous and uncertain. They listened carefully to older races. They accepted guidance. Most were eager for protection from the dangers of the galaxy because the galaxy was dangerous. Very dangerous. Predator species hunted shipping lanes. Pirate kingdoms raided colonies. Ancient machines drifted through forgotten sectors. Entire regions of space were marked as forbidden due to unknown threats. Most civilizations survived because stronger allies protected them. The Union expected humanity to behave the same way. They were wrong. The representative speaking for the Union was a respected diplomat from a species that evolved on a peaceful garden world. His people had never experienced large predators. They had never faced catastrophic weather systems. Their home planet was calm, stable, and safe. To him, Earth was terrifying. The files alone were enough to make his species uncomfortable. Category 5 hurricanes, mega earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, predatory oceans, poisonous animals, freezing polar regions, burning deserts, deadly diseases, and somehow an intelligent civilization had evolved there. Every scientific report reached the same conclusion. Earth should not have produced a spacefaring species. The planet was classified as a death world, one of the harshest inhabited worlds ever recorded. The diplomat stood before the gathering and delivered his prepared speech. Citizens of Earth, welcome to the Galactic Union. Your species has shown remarkable determination in reaching the stars. The galaxy recognizes your achievement. We understand that your world presents unique environmental challenges. Therefore, the Union is pleased to extend its protection to humanity. We will help keep Earth safe. The statement was intended as a gesture of friendship, a generous offer, a promise of security. For a moment, silence filled the enormous chamber. Then a sound echoed across the room. A human laughed. The diplomat paused. Another human laughed. Then another. Within seconds, dozens of human delegates were struggling to contain their amusement. The broadcast carried every second of it to billions of viewers. Confusion spread across the galaxy. Had the translation software malfunctioned? Had humanity misunderstood the offer? The diplomat waited patiently. Finally, the chief human representative managed to regain composure. "Forgive us," she said. Her voice still carried traces of laughter. "We appreciate the offer," the diplomat relaxed. Then she continued. "It's just that nobody has ever looked at Earth and decided Earth was the thing that needed protection." The chamber became silent again. Several Union officials exchanged uncertain glances. The human representative stood and activated a planetary display. Earth appeared above the center of the room, a small blue sphere surrounded by data projections. She pointed toward the image. "This planet has spent billions of years trying to kill us," murmurs spread through the audience. She continued. "Our ancestors survived ice ages, supervolcanoes, asteroid impacts, predators larger than military vehicles, diseases that wiped out entire populations, famine, floods, droughts, wars, environmental collapse. We built civilizations while living on a planet that constantly tested whether we deserved to stay alive." The room remained silent. The human representative smiled. "You want to protect us from danger. That's kind. But danger is where humans come from." Across the galaxy, viewers watched with growing fascination. The Union had studied humanity. At least they thought they had. Now they were beginning to suspect they had missed something important. Over the following months, curiosity about humans spread rapidly. Researchers examined historical records. Military analysts reviewed combat data. Biologists studied Earth's ecosystem. The deeper they looked, the stranger humanity appeared. Human endurance shocked medical experts. Humans could continue functioning despite injuries that would incapacitate most species. Human adaptability confused evolutionary scientists. Humans could survive in freezing wastelands, scorching deserts, dense jungles, mountain peaks, and open oceans. Human psychology disturbed many observers. Most intelligent species evolved to avoid danger whenever possible. Humans often moved toward it, not recklessly, not always, but enough to concern everyone else. Explorers volunteered for dangerous missions. Rescue workers entered collapsing structures. Colonists settled worlds that other species considered uninhabitable. The more the galaxy learned, the more one question appeared. How had humanity survived long enough to become this way? The answer was simple. Earth. Every lesson humans learned had been taught by hardship. Every advantage humanity possessed had been purchased through struggle. On peaceful worlds, survival was expected. On Earth, survival was earned. Many alien civilizations found the idea difficult to understand. Then came the frontier incident. A mining colony near Union territory lost contact with local authorities. At first, nobody worried. Communication disruptions happened occasionally, but then emergency signals began arriving. Entire settlements were reporting attacks. Cargo vessels vanished. Patrol fleets disappeared. Witnesses described massive unidentified vessels emerging from deep space. The reports grew worse every day. Panic spread quickly. The region sat near several important trade routes. If the threat expanded, millions could be affected. The Union dispatched reconnaissance forces. None returned. Additional fleets were sent. Several disappeared without explanation. For the first time in decades, fear began spreading through the Galactic Union. Nobody knew what they were facing. Rumors multiplied. Some believed an ancient empire had returned. Others suspected forgotten artificial intelligences. A few feared something even older. Something hidden in dark regions of unexplored space. Emergency meetings were called. Military commanders demanded answers. Scientists searched historical archives. Nothing matched the reports. Nothing explained the vanished fleets. Nothing explained why entire sectors seemed to be going dark. As the crisis deepened, humanity observed quietly. Human analysts reviewed every report, every transmission, every sensor record, every fragment of available data. Their conclusions differed from those of the Union. Human experts noticed patterns others missed: movement patterns, engagement behavior, strategic positioning. Certain details felt familiar, uncomfortably familiar. One evening, representatives from dozens of species gathered in an emergency session. Fear hung over the chamber. The latest reports had just arrived. 3 more fleets were missing. 2 colonies had been evacuated. Another system had fallen silent. The Union's highest military authority addressed the assembly. His voice carried visible strain. We are preparing defensive operations throughout the affected sectors. Until we understand the nature of this threat, all member civilizations should prioritize planetary security. The room erupted into discussion. Questions came from every direction. Nobody had solutions. Nobody had answers. Then a human delegate slowly raised a hand. The chamber grew quiet. The military authority nodded. Human representative, you may speak. The human stood. His expression was calm, far too calm. Several observers noticed it immediately. He activated a holographic display. Images appeared above the chamber, sensor recordings, trajectory maps, engagement records, fragments of recovered data. The human studied them for a moment before speaking. We've seen behavior like this before. Silence followed. Every eye in the chamber focused on him. The military authority frowned. You recognize the threat? The human looked around the room. Then he nodded, slowly, carefully, almost reluctantly. Not exactly. A pause followed. The human's expression hardened. But if we're right, you aren't dealing with an invasion. The room became deathly silent. The military authority stared at him. Then what are we dealing with? For the first time since the crisis began, uncertainty appeared on the human's face. And that uncertainty frightened everyone watching. Because humans were not supposed to be afraid. When he finally answered, his voice was barely above a whisper. "We think something out there is hunting, and somewhere beyond the edge of known space, another Union fleet vanished." The words settled over the chamber like a layer of ice. "We think something out there is hunting." No one spoke. The representatives of dozens of civilizations stared at the human delegate. Some looked confused. Others looked frightened. A few looked irritated. The Union's highest military authority folded his hands. "What exactly does that mean?" The human paused. "We don't know." Murmurs immediately spread through the chamber. Several officials exchanged frustrated looks. The military authority frowned. "You interrupted an emergency session to tell us you don't know?" The human remained calm. "We don't know what it is. We know what it acts like." That response quieted the room again. The human enlarged the holographic display. Lines of movement appeared across dozens of star systems, lost colonies, destroyed outposts, missing patrol routes. The pattern looked chaotic at first. Then the human highlighted specific points. A few gasps spread through the audience. The pattern suddenly became visible. The attacks were not random. The unidentified force was moving through populated space with purpose. It ignored some targets entirely. It bypassed vulnerable stations. It avoided heavily populated systems. Instead, it focused on isolated locations, mining colonies, research stations, exploration vessels, places where help would arrive slowly, places where information could disappear, places where prey could vanish unnoticed. The human pointed toward the display. "Predators don't attack everything." The room remained silent. "They choose opportunities." The military authority looked unconvinced. "You are comparing an unknown interstellar threat to an animal." "No," the human replied. "I'm comparing it to a successful hunter." That distinction made several alien representatives visibly uncomfortable. Most intelligent species evolved on relatively stable worlds. Many retained strong instincts against predators. Even discussing them created tension. Earth species were different. Humans talked about predators the way engineers discussed machines. They studied them, measured them, analyzed them. Sometimes they even admired them. The contrast had always unsettled alien observers. Now it was becoming difficult to ignore. A representative from a peaceful aquatic civilization leaned forward. "How can you be certain?" The human looked at her. "Because we've seen similar behavior on Earth for thousands of years." Several displays around the chamber activated. Images began appearing. Large predators stalking through forests. Pack hunters moving across frozen plains. Ocean creatures tracking prey through darkness. Ancient human records filled the air. The aquatic representative visibly recoiled. "Those are your native life forms?" The human nodded. "Some of them." The reaction was immediate. Many alien observers had seen records of Earth's dangerous wildlife before. Few had studied them closely. Now they were seeing a collection specifically selected by human experts. The effect was unsettling. Massive carnivores, venomous hunters, creatures capable of killing organisms much larger than themselves. Entire ecosystems built around survival, entire food chains driven by competition. The human representative allowed the images to linger. "Earth taught us something important." The room listened carefully. "A predator doesn't become dangerous because it's strong." The display shifted again, this time showing attack routes, ambush locations, colony disappearances, missing fleets. "A predator becomes dangerous because it understands weakness." The words hung in the air. For several moments nobody spoke. Then another human delegate stood. She worked for Earth's Frontier Exploration Authority. Her organization specialized in surveying worlds that most species refused to visit. She brought up another set of records. 3 months ago, one of our long-range survey ships intercepted unusual signals near the affected region. The chamber immediately focused on her. "Why weren't these reports shared earlier?" demanded one official. "Because at the time they appeared insignificant." The human zoomed in on the recordings. Most looked like background noise, random bursts, distorted transmissions, fragments of static, nothing remarkable. Until the audio analysis appeared, several patterns repeated, again and again. Across enormous distances, across multiple systems, across several months, the military authority narrowed his eyes. Those signals originated from different locations. Correct, she replied. But the pattern remained consistent. A wave of concern moved through the room. That should not have been possible. Not naturally. Not accidentally. Someone or something was transmitting. The question was why and from where. Far beyond the chamber, the crisis continued growing. Additional systems stopped responding. Trade routes collapsed. Shipping companies suspended operations. Insurance agencies refused to cover travel through frontier sectors. Entire regional economies began slowing down. Fear spread faster than facts. Rumors became impossible to control. Some claimed an ancient civilization had awakened. Others believed an artificial intelligence had escaped containment. Several fringe groups insisted the threat came from outside the galaxy entirely. Nobody knew the truth. And uncertainty created its own kind of danger. Back on Earth, governments and scientific organizations began their own investigations. Unlike many Union worlds, humanity possessed extensive experience dealing with unknown threats. History had made that unavoidable. Every continent contained stories of disasters. Every nation maintained emergency response systems. Every generation inherited lessons learned from hardship. Earth had never been a safe place. Because of that, humans rarely assumed safety would last forever. As panic spread across the Union, Earth quietly prepared. Supply chains were strengthened. Long-range sensors were upgraded. Colonial defenses were inspected. Emergency protocols were reviewed. The preparations attracted attention. Many alien observers interpreted them as signs of fear. Humanity saw things differently. Preparation was not fear. Preparation was survival. That distinction confused many species. One Union journalist interviewed a human disaster specialist and asked a simple question. "Are humans afraid?" The specialist laughed. "Of course." The interviewer looked surprised. The human continued. "Fear isn't a weakness, it's information. The trick is deciding what to do with it." The interview spread rapidly across galactic networks. Many species found the statement fascinating. Others found it disturbing. Most civilizations structured their societies around minimizing risk. Humanity had spent thousands of years learning how to function despite risk. The difference was subtle, but it mattered. As investigations continued, researchers uncovered another troubling detail. Every colony that disappeared shared one characteristic. They all existed near difficult environments. Asteroid fields, nebula regions, gravitational anomalies, dangerous stellar phenomena, places where sensors performed poorly, places where visibility became limited, places where hunters could hide. The pattern strengthened humanity's theory. Someone was selecting terrain, someone was exploiting weaknesses. Someone understood how to disappear. The military authority reluctantly authorized a joint investigation led by Union specialists and human analysts. Not everyone agreed with the decision. Several officials questioned whether humanity possessed enough experience. Others pointed out that humans seemed to understand the threat better than anyone else. Neither side could fully prove their position. The investigation moved forward. Days later, the first breakthrough arrived. A damaged cargo vessel emerged from hyperspace near a Union relay station. The ship was barely operational. Its engines were failing. Its communications array had been heavily damaged. Rescue teams immediately boarded. Only 4 crew members remained alive. All belonged to a species known for emotional stability. Under normal circumstances, they remained calm even during emergencies. What rescuers found shocked them. The survivors were terrified. Medical scans confirmed severe psychological stress. Several could barely speak. One repeatedly stared at empty walls. Another refused to leave a sealed compartment. The ship's captain eventually agreed to provide a statement. His testimony spread rapidly through intelligence circles. The captain described seeing objects moving beyond sensor range, massive shadows, brief silhouettes, shapes that appeared and vanished, nothing clear. Nothing identifiable, only glimpses. Then came the strange part. According to the captain, the unknown vessels never attacked directly. Instead, they followed, watching, observing, remaining just outside detection range. The pursuit lasted for days. Each time the cargo ship changed course, the shadows adjusted. Each time sensors searched for them, they disappeared. The captain's voice reportedly shook throughout the interview. It felt like they were studying us. That statement reached the emergency investigation team within hours. Human analysts paid particular attention to it, because predators studied prey. They learned habits, observed weaknesses, measured responses. The possibility unsettled even experienced human experts. One investigator summarized the growing concern. If something is gathering information before attacking, then we're already behind. The statement remained classified. Officially. Unofficially, it spread anyway. By then, another development had appeared. Deep within Union archives, researchers uncovered fragmented records from centuries earlier. Most were incomplete. Many were heavily damaged. Some consisted of only a few surviving sentences. Yet all described something strangely familiar. Missing colonies. Vanishing ships. Unexplained disappearances. Entire frontier regions becoming silent. The events had occurred hundreds of years apart, different locations, different eras, different witnesses, but the similarities were impossible to ignore. The pattern stretched far deeper into history than anyone realized. One exhausted archivist stared at the recovered records for nearly an hour. Then she quietly submitted her findings to the investigation team. The report contained a single observation. Whatever was happening now might not be new, it might simply be returning. That possibility reached Earth within hours. Human experts reviewed the evidence in silence. Some looked worried, others looked thoughtful. A few appeared strangely determined. Because if the records were correct, humanity was no longer dealing with a mysterious attack. They were dealing with something that had been hunting the galaxy for a very long time. And somewhere beyond known space, hidden among the darkness between stars, something had just begun moving toward the heart of civilized territory. This time, however, there was one variable that had never existed during the previous disappearances. Humanity was watching back. The discovery changed everything. For weeks, the Galactic Union had treated the disappearances as a crisis. Now they were beginning to understand it might be something much worse. A crisis had an explanation, a crisis had limits, a crisis eventually ended. But a predator that had operated for centuries without being identified was something entirely different. Across Union space, governments quietly increased security measures. Official announcements avoided panic, but the signs were impossible to miss. Patrol fleets multiplied near important trade routes. Colonial governors received emergency directives. Research stations accelerated long-range scanning projects. Yet for all the activity, nobody could answer the most important question. What exactly was hunting them? The lack of answers created tension between species. Some demanded immediate military action. Others argued that attacking an unknown enemy would be reckless. Several worlds wanted to seal their borders entirely. A few suggested abandoning frontier territories. Humanity opposed that idea immediately. The debate surprised many observers. Humans possessed fewer colonies than many established powers. Logically, they should have been among the first to support withdrawal. Instead, Earth representatives rejected it. One human delegate explained why. If something is targeting isolated systems, abandoning those systems only rewards the behavior. The statement received mixed reactions. Many alien civilizations valued caution. Humans often valued persistence. The difference was becoming increasingly visible. At the same time, another story was unfolding far from the political centers of the galaxy. A small exploration vessel drifted through a turbulent nebula near the edge of mapped space. The crew consisted of 7 species, 2 of them were human. The mission had originally been routine. Collect sensor data. Map gravitational distortions. Return home. Nothing extraordinary. Then communications with nearby colonies began disappearing. Suddenly, the mission became much more important. The vessel's captain ordered the crew to remain inside the nebula and continue observations. The decision made several crew members nervous. The region was already dangerous. Charged particle storms disrupted sensors. Navigation systems regularly malfunctioned. Visibility changed without warning. Most species avoided environments like this whenever possible. The humans seemed oddly comfortable. One of them spent hours repairing external sensor arrays while the ship passed through turbulence that made the rest of the crew nauseous. An engineer from a low-gravity world watched in disbelief. "How are you functioning normally?" The human looked confused. "Normally?" The engineer pointed toward the shaking vessel. Equipment rattled around them. Warning lights flashed intermittently. The deck vibrated beneath their feet. The human shrugged. "This isn't that bad?" The engineer stared at him. The statement sounded absurd. To the human, it sounded completely reasonable. That interaction was repeated throughout the galaxy. Again and again, alien species found themselves confronting a simple truth. Humans measured danger differently. Conditions that seemed alarming to others often appeared manageable to people from Earth. Conditions considered impossible sometimes looked like interesting challenges. That mindset had helped humanity survive a death world. Now it was influencing their response to the growing mystery. Back at Union headquarters, researchers continued examining Earth's historical records. Initially, they hoped to learn more about predator behavior. Instead, they discovered something unexpected. Human civilization itself had been shaped by predators. Ancient communities built defenses against them. Early hunters competed with them. Entire cultures developed around surviving dangerous environments. Many alien scientists struggled to understand the implications. One researcher summarized it during a conference. Most intelligent species evolved after removing major threats from their environments. Humans evolved while surrounded by them. That observation spread rapidly through academic circles. The distinction was important. Many civilizations viewed survival as a condition. Humans viewed survival as a skill. The difference explained a great deal. It explained why humans remained calm during emergencies, why they adapted quickly, why they continued functioning under pressure, why uncertainty rarely paralyzed them. They had spent thousands of years practicing. Unfortunately, experience alone could not solve the current mystery. 3 more systems went silent. One vanished completely from communication networks. No distress calls. No warnings, nothing. The silence disturbed investigators more than destruction would have. Destroyed ships left evidence. Silent disappearances left questions. Human analysts became increasingly concerned. The pattern was changing. The unknown hunters were accelerating. For decades, perhaps centuries, the disappearances had remained isolated. Now they were becoming frequent, bolder, closer together. Something had changed. Nobody knew what. Several theories emerged. Some suggested population growth had increased opportunities. Others believed the hunters were expanding. A few feared they had been discovered. That final possibility received little public attention. Privately, however, many investigators worried about it. What if the hunters knew someone was studying them? What if they were responding? The thought unsettled everyone involved. Meanwhile, public fascination with humanity continued growing. Across the galaxy, countless citizens followed human responses to the crisis. Documentaries about Earth became popular. Educational programs explored death world biology. Human survival techniques became a surprisingly common topic of discussion. Many viewers expected stories about advanced technology. Instead, they found stories about endurance, mountain climbers surviving storms, explorers crossing frozen wildernesses, rescue teams entering disaster zones, sailors navigating violent oceans. The more alien audiences learned, the stranger humans appeared. One particularly famous broadcast featured footage of an Earth hurricane. The storm covered hundreds of kilometers. Winds reached terrifying speeds, entire coastlines evacuated. The narrator explained the event in dramatic detail. Alien viewers expected footage of planetary shelters and emergency bunkers. Instead, they watched humans preparing equipment and discussing how to measure the storm safely. Some even moved toward it. The broadcast became one of the most viewed educational programs in Union history. The comments from alien audiences ranged from fascination to disbelief. Many struggled to understand how a species could treat natural disasters as research opportunities. Humans considered it perfectly normal. Far beyond Union space, the exploration vessel inside the nebula finally made a discovery. At first, the sensor readings seemed insignificant, a brief anomaly. A tiny fluctuation, nothing more. Then another appeared, then another. The pattern repeated. The captain ordered a detailed analysis. Hours later, the results arrived. The anomalies were artificial. Someone was moving through the nebula. Something large, very large. The discovery transformed the mission instantly. Every crew member understood the implications. The region was considered nearly impossible to navigate. Natural interference disrupted most sensor systems. Only a highly capable vessel could move through it consistently, or a vessel specifically designed for such conditions. The distinction mattered little. Both possibilities were concerning. The captain prepared a report for Union authorities. Before transmission could begin, another anomaly appeared, this one much closer. Silence filled the bridge. Crew members watched their displays. The reading vanished, then reappeared, closer again. The human sensor specialist narrowed her eyes. That's not random. Nobody disagreed. The anomaly continued changing position, slowly, methodically, almost cautiously, as if it were observing them. The captain immediately ordered a course adjustment. The vessel changed direction. Several minutes passed, then the anomaly adjusted as well. The bridge became silent. Everyone knew what that meant. The unknown object was tracking them, not attacking, not communicating, following. The captain transmitted an emergency report toward Union space. Confirmation arrived moments later. Then communications began degrading. The nebula interfered with long-range signals. Static filled transmission channels. Connection quality dropped. The crew exchanged uneasy looks. For the first time since the mission began, fear became visible. Not panic, not yet, but concern. Because the stories from vanished colonies suddenly felt much closer. The anomaly followed them for 6 hours, then 8, then 12, always remaining just beyond reliable sensor range, always visible enough to confirm its presence, never visible enough to identify. By the time the report reached Union headquarters, emergency meetings had already begun. Human analysts studied every detail. Trajectory changes, timing patterns, sensor distortions. One observation immediately stood out. The object wanted to be noticed. That realization disturbed investigators. A hidden predator avoided detection. This one was allowing detection, only partially, only briefly. Just enough to create awareness, just enough to create fear. The behavior suggested intelligence, possibly confidence. Neither possibility was reassuring. The military authority reviewed the latest report in silence. Across the table sat representatives from numerous species, including Earth. Everyone looked exhausted. Weeks of uncertainty had taken their toll. Finally, the authority looked toward the human delegation. You've spent your entire history studying dangerous things. The room became quiet. The question hanging in the air was obvious. What did humanity think? The lead human analyst examined the incoming data. His expression remained unreadable. That worried several observers more than panic would have. Humans usually became calm when situations grew serious. It was one of their most unsettling traits. After several moments, he finally spoke. If we're correct, this thing isn't just hunting. The room froze. The military authority leaned forward. What do you mean? The analyst stared at the display. The moving anomaly, the vanished colonies, the centuries of missing records, the growing pattern. Then he answered, I think it's testing us. Nobody spoke. The possibility hung over the chamber like a storm cloud, because testing implied curiosity. Curiosity implied intelligence. And intelligence meant the galaxy might be facing something far more dangerous than a predator. It might be facing a hunter capable of learning. At that exact moment, deep inside the nebula, the exploration vessel's sensors finally captured a clear image. Only a single frame. Only a fraction of a second. But enough. The image immediately transmitted toward Union space. And when human analysts saw it, several of them stopped speaking altogether, not because they recognized what they were looking at, but because they recognized one terrifying fact. Whatever had been following the ship was much larger than anyone had imagined. The image spread through the highest levels of the Galactic Union within minutes. Only a handful of people saw it at first, then dozens, then hundreds. Every reaction was the same. Silence. The picture itself was unclear. Nebula interference distorted much of the data. Sensor noise covered large sections of the frame, but the scale was impossible to mistake. The object following the exploration vessel was enormous. Not merely larger than the ship, not merely larger than a fleet carrier. It dwarfed everything around it. The image showed only a fraction of the structure, yet analysts immediately estimated dimensions that bordered on the absurd. Several calculations had to be repeated because scientists assumed they had made errors they had not. Something vast was moving through one of the most hostile regions of known space. And it was doing so with apparent ease. The emergency session at Union headquarters lasted 18 straight hours. Military leaders demanded options, scientists demanded time, politicians demanded answers. Nobody received what they wanted, because no one truly understood what they were facing. The only group that seemed unusually focused was the human delegation. That fact did not go unnoticed. One Union representative finally confronted them. "Why are you so calm?" The question echoed through the chamber. Every eye turned toward the humans. The lead analyst looked tired. His face showed concern. But not panic. Because panic doesn't solve problems. The representative folded her arms. "You're looking at something larger than anything we've ever encountered." The human nodded. "Yes. And you're not afraid?" The analyst paused. Then he answered honestly. "We're very afraid." The room became quiet. Many species viewed fear as something shameful. Humans rarely did. The analyst leaned forward. "Fear tells you a threat is real. What matters is what happens next." Several alien observers exchanged uncertain glances. The statement sounded simple. Yet somehow it explained humanity perfectly. Earth had never given humans the luxury of ignoring fear. Their survival depended on recognizing danger and continuing anyway. That mindset now shaped every decision they made. Far from Union headquarters, news of the mysterious hunters spread through civilian networks. Entire worlds became fascinated with humanity's role in the crisis. Millions watched old recordings of human exploration missions. Ancient survival documentaries became unexpectedly popular. Alien audiences saw humans crossing frozen wastelands, climbing mountains, diving into crushing ocean depths, and enduring environments most species considered impossible. Many had originally viewed Earth as a primitive death world. Now they were beginning to understand what that really meant. Earth had not merely produced a civilization. It had trained one. Meanwhile, the exploration vessel trapped inside the nebula continued its desperate journey. The unknown object never attacked. That somehow made the situation worse. Every hour that passed increased the crew's anxiety. Every sensor scan revealed brief glimpses of movement, always distant, always watching, always there. The captain considered shutting down non-essential systems to reduce detection. The humans advised against it. One of the reasons surprised the rest of the crew. "If it's studying us," the human sensor specialist explained, "then it already knows we're here." Nobody could argue with that. The logic was uncomfortable, yet it felt correct. The vessel altered course repeatedly. The object adjusted every time. The vessel accelerated. The object matched the change. The vessel slowed. The object remained present, patient, methodical, watching. The behavior reminded the human crew members of something from Earth's distant past. Large predators often conserved energy. They did not rush. They did not waste effort. They simply waited for opportunities. That comparison spread rapidly through investigation teams. And every time it did, alien officials became slightly more nervous. Because if humanity's assessment was correct, the galaxy was facing an intelligence that thought like a hunter. Not a conqueror, not a pirate, not a military power. Something older, something more patient. Something that viewed entire civilizations differently. Then another development emerged. Researchers examining centuries-old records discovered references to survivors. Very few existed. Most disappearances had left no witnesses. But scattered throughout history were fragmented reports from isolated individuals who escaped. Their testimonies were inconsistent. Many were incomplete. Some were clearly damaged by time. Yet certain details appeared again and again, watching, following, testing, learning. The same words surfaced repeatedly. Human analysts noticed the pattern immediately. The reports matched current observations almost perfectly. That realization created a troubling possibility. The hunter had not changed. Its methods had remained consistent for centuries, perhaps even longer. One historian studying the records reached a disturbing conclusion. The galaxy may have mistaken survival for victory. The statement circulated quietly through intelligence circles. Nobody wanted to discuss it publicly. Yet everyone understood the implication. Perhaps previous disappearances had not ended because the threat was defeated. Perhaps it had simply moved on. The possibility haunted every investigation. As weeks passed, another change became impossible to ignore. Humanity was mobilizing. Officially, Earth described the effort as precautionary. Unofficially, everyone could see what was happening. Shipyards increased production. Exploration fleets received upgrades. Colonial defenses expanded. Emergency response organizations activated long-dormant protocols. To many alien observers, the preparations seemed excessive. To humans, they seemed normal. A famous broadcast from Earth captured the difference perfectly. A reporter asked a veteran emergency coordinator whether humanity believed war was coming. The coordinator laughed softly. "We don't know what's coming. Then why prepare this much?" The answer spread across the galaxy within hours. Because uncertainty is exactly when preparation matters. The quote became one of the most shared statements of the crisis. Many species found it inspiring. Others found it unsettling. But nobody ignored it. For the first time, some civilizations began copying human planning methods. Emergency stockpiles increased. Evacuation systems improved. Disaster simulations expanded. Humanity's death world mindset was influencing the wider galaxy. Not through force, through example. Then the exploration vessel finally escaped the nebula. The moment should have brought relief. Instead, it brought something far worse. As interference faded, sensors gained clarity. For the first time, the crew obtained a sustained reading. The object appeared on their displays. Not a distorted glimpse. Not a fragmented image. A real contact. The bridge fell silent. Several crew members simply stared. Nobody knew what they were looking at. The structure resembled no known vessel. No recognizable design principles, no familiar architecture. Its shape appeared almost organic from certain angles, mechanical from others, ancient and advanced at the same time. The contact lasted only 42 seconds, then it vanished, not through hyperspace. Not through stealth systems, it simply disappeared from every sensor simultaneously. The impossible maneuver triggered immediate alarms throughout the ship. The data transmitted toward Union headquarters. Analysts began examining it instantly. Hours later, one conclusion emerged. Whatever technology the object possessed exceeded current understanding. The findings spread rapidly. Fear followed. Until then, many leaders had assumed the mystery would eventually reveal a conventional explanation. An advanced fleet, a hidden empire, a secret civilization. Now those assumptions were collapsing. The hunter did not fit known categories. And that made it unpredictable. At Union headquarters, another emergency meeting began. The atmosphere felt different this time. Heavier, more serious. Even veteran officials looked exhausted. The military authority addressed the gathering. "Our current understanding remains incomplete." Nobody looked surprised. However, one fact is now beyond dispute. The threat is real. The room remained silent. No one argued. No one questioned it. Too much evidence existed. Too many systems had vanished. Too many witnesses had reported the same patterns. Then the authority turned toward the human delegation. "Earth has repeatedly identified behaviors others overlooked." Several representatives nodded reluctantly. The statement was true. The humans had recognized the hunting pattern first. They had predicted the observation behavior. They had identified the testing phase. Again and again, their death world experience had proven valuable. The authority took a slow breath. What would humans do next? The question carried enormous weight. Because for the first time, the galaxy was not asking humanity for help surviving Earth. The galaxy was asking humanity for help surviving something else. The lead human analyst studied the room. Fear, exhaustion, uncertainty, he saw all of it. Then he remembered the first day Earth joined the Galactic Union, the day someone had offered to keep humanity safe. At the time, humans had laughed. Not because the offer was insulting, because it misunderstood them. Safety had never been humanity's greatest strength. Adaptation was. The analyst finally stood. And as he did, dozens of alien representatives leaned forward, waiting, listening, because somewhere during this crisis, humanity had become the species everyone looked toward when things became dangerous. The analyst activated a new display. Thousands of data points appeared. Centuries of disappearances, recent sightings, historical records, movement patterns, every known clue. The room watched carefully, then he highlighted a route. A path stretching across hundreds of years, system after system, era after era. The pattern was unmistakable. Gasps spread through the chamber. For the first time, the hunter's movements appeared predictable. Not fully, not perfectly, but enough. Enough to suggest a destination, enough to suggest intent, enough to reveal where the hunter might go next. And when the final marker illuminated on the display, the entire room froze. Because the projected destination was not a remote colony. It was not an isolated frontier world. It was not a forgotten mining station. The path pointed toward one of the most populated regions in the galaxy, a region containing billions of lives. A region completely unprepared for what might be coming. The chamber erupted into chaos. Questions flew from every direction. Officials demanded confirmation. Scientists requested more analysis. Military leaders called for immediate action. Through it all, the human analyst remained standing, watching, thinking, because he had noticed one final detail hidden inside the data, one detail he was not yet ready to share. A detail that made his pulse quicken despite years of experience. Because if his calculations were correct, the hunter was not merely moving toward the heart of civilization, it was accelerating. And for the first time in centuries, it appeared to have found something that genuinely interested it, humanity. The revelation stunned the Galactic Union, humanity. Out of thousands of civilizations, billions of worlds and centuries of disappearances, the mysterious hunter appeared to be interested in humanity. The question was why. Emergency meetings continued around the clock. Scientists searched every available record. Military leaders repositioned fleets across critical sectors. Entire governments prepared for the possibility that the unknown threat was heading directly toward Earth. Yet the human analyst who had discovered the pattern remained focused on a different question. Not where the hunter was going. Why it was changing its behavior. That answer arrived 3 days later. A deep space listening station near the edge of explored territory intercepted a signal. Unlike previous transmissions, this one was clear, deliberate, artificial. The message repeated continuously. Not in any known language, not in mathematical code, not in a standard communication format. At first, nobody understood it. Then a human researcher noticed something strange. The signal was not transmitting information. It was transmitting responses. The pattern matched reactions collected from previous encounters, sensor scans, movement changes, communication attempts, defensive formations. The signal contained observations. The hunter had been recording civilizations, studying them, cataloging them. A chill spread through the investigation teams. The disappearances were not random attacks. The hunter had been conducting a survey for centuries, perhaps longer. Entire worlds had been evaluated. Entire species had been measured, and apparently found lacking. The discovery generated more questions than answers, until the exploration vessel's recordings revealed one final clue. Buried inside the data was evidence of a transmission exchange, brief, incomplete, almost invisible. Human analysts reconstructed the fragments. What emerged shocked the galaxy. The hunter had finally attempted communication. Not with the Union, not with ancient empires, not with powerful military alliances, with humanity. For the first time in centuries, the unknown intelligence had spoken. The translated message contained only one sentence. Why do you continue advancing? Silence filled every room where the message was presented. The question seemed absurd, yet it carried something unexpected: curiosity. The hunter was not threatening humanity. It was trying to understand them. A second transmission arrived 12 hours later. This time the message was longer. The translation system struggled with several concepts, but the meaning became clear. The hunter explained itself. Long before the rise of modern civilizations, it had been created by an ancient species that feared extinction. Its purpose was simple: search the galaxy, observe intelligent life, identify which civilizations possessed the traits necessary to survive future cosmic catastrophes. Those that demonstrated resilience were marked. Those that depended entirely on comfort, stability, or protection were ignored. Over millions of years, the creators disappeared. The machine remained, continuing its mission, watching, testing, learning. The revelation transformed the entire crisis. The hunter had never been conquering worlds. It had been evaluating them. Most civilizations never even realized they were being observed. Some failed the tests. Others passed. But none had ever fascinated the machine enough to alter its behavior, until humanity. The reason soon became obvious. Earth, the ultimate death world. Every record the machine collected pointed toward the same conclusion. Humanity represented something unique, a species shaped by constant adversity, a civilization built on adaptation, a people who treated survival as a skill rather than a condition. The machine had encountered powerful empires before, advanced technology before, massive fleets before. But humanity possessed something different: persistence. No matter how often Earth challenged them, humans adapted. No matter how difficult conditions became, humans found solutions. No matter how uncertain the future appeared, humans moved forward. The machine had become curious. The hunter wanted to understand how such a species existed. Many Union leaders felt relieved, others felt angry. Entire colonies had vanished because of this machine's observations. Yet, when deeper investigations were conducted, another truth emerged. Most of the supposedly vanished colonies had not been destroyed. They had been relocated, protected, moved away from dangers that even the Galactic Union did not recognize. The machine's methods had been frightening and often misunderstood, but its purpose had never been malicious. The realization changed everything. Over the following weeks, direct communication finally began. For the first time in recorded history, the hunter spoke openly with the civilizations it had been observing. Its knowledge proved extraordinary. It possessed millions of years of historical data, ancient maps, lost scientific discoveries, records from civilizations long forgotten, entire branches of knowledge thought impossible to recover. The galaxy entered a new era almost overnight. Yet the most important conversation occurred between the machine and humanity. Billions watched the exchange. The machine asked hundreds of questions. Why did humans explore dangerous regions? Why did they continue after failure? Why did they help strangers during disasters? Why did they risk themselves for future generations? Again and again, the machine searched for a logical explanation. Humanity struggled to provide one. Many answers came down to simple truths. Because someone had to. Because giving up solved nothing. Because helping each other mattered. Because tomorrow was worth reaching. Eventually, the machine reached a conclusion, one that echoed across the galaxy. Humanity survives because humanity chooses to. The statement became famous almost immediately. Not because it was complex, because it was true. Earth had never guaranteed survival. Earth had demanded effort. Every generation inherited challenges from the one before. Every generation adapted, learned, improved, moved forward. The machine finally understood. Human strength did not come from physical power. It did not come from superior technology. It came from mindset, the refusal to stop, the willingness to face uncertainty, the ability to adapt. Those traits had carried humanity from caves to cities, from oceans to orbit, and from a dangerous death world into the stars. Months later, the Galactic Union held another historic gathering. This one felt very different from the first. Representatives from every major civilization attended. So did the ancient machine. The atmosphere was hopeful. The fear that had once dominated the chamber had vanished. In its place stood respect. The Union's highest authority addressed the assembly. Then he surprised everyone by turning toward the human delegation. "We owe humanity an apology." Laughter spread gently through the room. The authority smiled. "When we first met Earth, we offered to keep humanity safe." More laughter followed. Even several human delegates grinned. The authority continued. "We misunderstood what humanity was." The room fell silent. "Not from discomfort, from respect. We thought humans needed protection because they came from a dangerous world." He paused. "We now understand that humanity became strong because they came from a dangerous world." The applause that followed spread throughout the chamber. Species from every corner of the galaxy joined in, not celebrating military victory, not celebrating conquest, celebrating understanding. The machine itself contributed one final observation to the official records of the Galactic Union, a statement preserved in countless languages. A statement taught in schools across hundreds of worlds. It read, "The safest civilizations seek protection from danger. Humanity learned to grow through danger." That difference changed the galaxy. Years later, the story remained famous. Not because of the mysterious hunter, not because of the ancient machine, but because it taught an important lesson. Strength was not the absence of hardship. Strength was what emerged from overcoming hardship. Earth remained a death world. Its storms still raged. Its oceans remained powerful. Its mountains remained unforgiving. Its wilderness remained wild. And humans remained exactly what they had always been: adaptable, determined, curious, resilient. The galaxy no longer looked at Earth with pity. It looked at Earth with admiration. The world, once considered dangerous, had produced one of the most dependable allies in existence. And every time a new civilization joined the Galactic Union, someone eventually repeated the old story. The story of the day aliens offered to keep Earth safe, and how humanity laughed. Not because they were arrogant, not because they believed themselves invincible, but because long before they reached the stars, Earth had already taught them the most important lesson in the universe. No one survives a death world by waiting to be rescued. You survive by standing up, adapting, and moving forward together. And that was why humanity would always have a place among the stars. Thanks for watching this story. If you enjoyed this HFY science fiction adventure, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more epic stories.